Hello and welcome to Let's Roll Gaming, the tabletop gaming show from a casual perspective. My name is Josh, and today we're going to talk about 11th edition. Yes, it's finally here, and I'm finally getting this video recorded. We have the rules that are going to be updated and released pretty soon, and then on Saturday we have the Armageddon box being available. And I am looking forward to putting together all those models and then painting them, amongst all my other models I have to paint. The joys of enjoying this hobby. But today I wanted to talk about two of the rules and some of my thoughts regarding this edition. And so, the first thing I wanted to talk about is the objectives and the way that they've changed. The way that the objectives have worked is you have this objective area, and it ended up being these like 9-inch neoprene mat objectives that were placed across the field, and then the terrain was placed on the field sometimes not on these objectives. And so what you would have is areas in the middle of the board that had no terrain, and you had to go and secure those objectives. And that can cause problems just because it's less immersive and there's no cover, no line of sight blocking, so you have to be wary about when you do it so that you could actually get whatever you wanted to get done. And what they've instead switched to doing is terrain layouts. So you have a base that you'll put on the board of different shapes that represent either dense terrain or non-dense terrain, and they block line of sight, and you place the terrain on top of them. And I like this method because it's more immersive, because at least now you're going to be in some terrain doing some things. And you're not going to be in the middle of the field looking silly, just kind of sitting there. And I like the way that they're doing this since they don't have an actual like objective marker that you would have to put down that would be a model you couldn't be over. So I like how they're doing this. I think it is a good idea. And I'm going to find it interesting to see what's going to happen with these terrain pieces. But overall, I like what I'm seeing so far. I like some of the new changes. When you're shooting into terrain, you get a -1 to your ballistic skill, so it's harder to shoot in so that it's not on the save value of the people that are hiding. Speaking of hiding, that's a new term, hidden, which makes it so that when you're not within 15 inches, you can't see them. And I like that. Yes, there's going to be some armies that can probably go through that. But I like this idea because it'll make it harder to get shot off earlier in the game. Because until the certain conditions are met, you won't be able to be shot at. And I think it's going to help some armies out a lot. And I like how they're getting away from just the L-shaped ruins that they had in 10th edition. And it will be cool seeing how people do their tables now, even though the layouts are going to be very much the same based on the mission that you're doing. And so I'm glad for that rule. And that's one of the ones that like when they first said it was like nice. I like it. And the other one that at the time I really liked were the changes they did to detachments. So now with detachments, they're costed 1, 2, or 3 points. And in higher level games, you can use those points to change how you do your army. So, for an example, like in 1,000 point games, you have 2 detachment points. So you could do two 1 point detachments. In at the 2,000 point level, you have 3 detachment points. So you can do a 2 and a 1 or 1, 1 and 1, depending on how you want to do it. And I like the idea of this because when you're looking at those two to 2 and 1 point detachments, you can come up with some interesting combinations and shape how you play your army and what you bring to your army. You could have your core army doing one thing, and then you could have a one detachment, a 1 point detachment that's going to be able to do something a little different and make up for some of the problems you may have with your main detachment. So I like this in theory, and I liked it when I first saw it. And then before the rules clarification, like one of the problem we have with this time of this season is we don't have all the rules out. We don't have all the clarifications that they're going to do. So when the detachments first dropped, you saw that at 2000 at 2000 points you could play the 3 point detachment, but at a 1000 point game it looked like you couldn't. And so it was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to get used to something different than what I've been playing. And so you got me thinking a little bit, and I was a little disappointed. And then not only that, but when you look at the dispositions, which is another new thing for the detachments, which is basically based on what type of detachment it is, you will be given specific rules based on the disposition that that detachment uses. And with the larger games, when you have multiple detachments, you can select which force disposition to use. And now most of my experience is going to be coming from the um, Liberator Assault Group or LAG detachment for Blood Angels since I just started playing them, and that's what I have to play right now. And so when I look at this detachment, to me, it didn't seem to fit what the disposition that it said. Now, again, this may change with the rules that are coming up soon, or it may change with the new codex. But when I look at the Liberator Assault Group, it is a detachment that wants you to move around and charge, fall back, charge, advance and charge, and wants you to move around and go after your enemies a lot. And the force disposition they chose for it is to take and hold, which is you take an objective and you hold it. It doesn't feel like it fits to me. Now, maybe I'm just not, I'm still new to this, so I may not be thinking of it differently, correctly, but just at first glance, it doesn't feel like it's really going to fit very well. Now, that's going to make me, when I get to those 2000 point games, is going to make me want to bring in maybe some assault terminators with shields or something to help um, soak up some damage. And so that's also going to be where you start looking at some of the other detachments and detachment points to see if you can find some other method of doing things and to get the different stratagems or the different enhancements that you need in order to pull off what you want to pull off. And so this was a very interesting change that they did. Because at first I was pretty hyped for some of these changes, and then I'm feeling a little dejected. And then I found later that they have clarified their rules that yes, at 1,000 points you can play a 3 point detachment. Those detachments are really meant for the detachment points are really meant for higher level games. So that's good. I just wish they would have explained it better initially. It just feels like they didn't think about that and how people would react to the way that it was. So they had to clarify, and they said they would be updating the documents after everything else gets updated. So at least they're doing that. That kind of brings me to this interesting period because one of the things I have liked in the last couple editions is you get the announcement, and then for the next few months, you get little rules here and there. And I always like waiting for the rules and seeing what rules are coming, and I feel the hype building and building and building. In this edition, it hasn't really had that same effect because starting with the initial model reveals, the Space Marine side of the community was pretty unhappy with what was going on because the models didn't look as good as they wanted, and they just didn't feel like the box lived up to what they would want. So the hype just wasn't there. I mean, the orc side was pretty good with a couple complaints here and there, but for the most part, the orcs really seem to be pretty hyped for what's coming, at least from what I've seen online. And so you have that. You have the French rules being leaked, so then they had to show the core rules earlier than they probably intended. And so it's that kind of changed things because now we can see how what the rules are and how the rules are going to play out. Granted, we still don't have the full picture, but we have a much better picture of what this edition is going to look like. So some of that mystery is gone. Then with these attachments, there's just a lot of people feeling like this was a rushed job. They could have waited a little longer, but they had to make it by the deadline, so they had to get it done. So I'm hoping that this company will see the wisdom of maybe switching to a 4 year cycle of these games, especially now that you have Old World, which is doing really good. So they're going to want to have their own time for that, and then they can keep on taking money from us. I mean, having us buy things. So overall, I am hyped for the edition. I'm just disappointed in some of the ways that this edition change has been handled and how it feels a little rushed. But I am looking forward to playing 11th edition, and I am looking forward to the um, Armageddon box. And so Saturday can't come soon enough. And I'm going to be trying to release more videos on a more regular manner. And I'm, I'm going to just keep on trying to look at this stuff and understand it as best as I can since I don't get to play as much as I'd like. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.